Was Amelia Earhart actually lost at sea, or did she just run away? Was she captured by the Japanese military? Find out all of that and more on this episode of Unsolved Mysteries Solved. What's up? It's me, Colt Joyce, and I'm here with my co-host,
Chad Kimmons, as usual, PhD in solving unsolved mysteries. I gotta make sure that nobody forgets that.
Absolutely. Dr. Chad and I have been doing a lot of research, a lot of poring over the microfiche in the libraries, and we've come up with some new theories to solve some of the hardest questions in the human condition. So we're gonna come hot with those right now.
Thank you, by the way, for remembering to use my title, doctor.
Oh, of course, yeah, man. We keep it professional here.
Yes, very serious podcast.
It's a very serious podcast.
Nothing to laugh about here.
Yeah. So let's get into it. It's a hometown hero for us, man. This person's from Kansas. How much do you know about Amelia Earhart?
I know that now I know that she's from Kansas. I know that wasn't she like the first woman to fly across the Atlantic or something?
That is correct. Yes, that was one of her big accolades, and we'll get into those later.
And
then, yeah.
She disappeared. That's about all I know.
Yep. Well, sweet. So Amelia Mary Earhart, and I'm going to struggle to say Earhart for the rest of this podcast. I want to say Earhart for some reason. But she was born in Atchison, Kansas in 1897. And she grew up with her sister Grace in a very tomboy kind of childhood. They would do things like climbing trees, mudsledding, and hunting rats with a rifle.
It's my favorite pastime, hunting rats with a rifle.
Oh yeah, I think you mentioned it on the last the Jack the Ripper episode of how you have a Skyrim experience of hunting city rats. So
well, kind of. It was yeah. Well, whatever. But yeah, no, I've been known to, what is it from Star Wars, blast womp rats or whatever?
Oh, yeah. That's a hot reference right there.
Yeah, super topical.
Topical. So at the age of 10, she and her family moved north to Des Moines, Iowa, and that's where Earhart saw her first plane at the Iowa State Fair. But she did not like it. This is kind of a funny thing in her story is, she saw the biplane and described it as a thing of rusty wire and wood, not at all interesting. So this was not the beginning of her flight journey at 10 years old. She did not care at that point.
Hold up. So up until this point, I assume, like you said, this was the first time she's ever seen a plane.
Mm-hmm.
So you've never seen someone fly through the sky, and then the first time you do, you just kind of go, I've seen better. What?
This is a very cynical 10-year-old.
All right, Grandma. Seriously, though. Oh, what? I'm already pissed off at this woman.
So eventually the family moved again to Chicago. She started going to high school there with a heavy interest in science. She briefly went to college, didn't complete her degree, and then when World War I began, she received nurse's aid training by the Red Cross and worked in a military hospital for a while.
Well, she wasn't impressed by it.
No.
Nothing impresses this woman. She's not impressed by planes. What? Oh, just a war is going on? Okay, well, whatever. Sorry, I'm very angry at this woman right now.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. She's doing cool stuff immediately with the World War I work, but that's a very interesting thing that we saw earlier with the Des Moines State Fair. It was immediately does not care about planes and doesn't care about it for another 20 years. Not 20 years, but for another 10 years, she's just not into it. Don't care at all.
Okay, sorry. I'll let you tell your story.
Oh, no, you're good. After the war, she enrolled in Columbia University to do medical studies, but quit after a year and moved to California with her parents in Long Beach. And this is when she got into the flying stuff. In December of 1920, Earhart and her father visited an airfield where pilot Frank Hawks gave her a ride that would forever change Earhart's life. This is a quote from her. By the time I got 200 or 300 feet off the ground, I knew I had to fly.
Now,
So
see, I'm
that's
just imagining that, like, they had to really, really sell it to her, and she had, when she gets in the plane, they get off the ground, they're like, cruising altitude. I don't think biplanes can go to, quote, cruising altitude, but they get to cruising altitude, and she's just like, seen better. Like, this is going to be a running theme for this one. Like, she's just going to be unimpressed by everything.
Yeah, I mean, she's like perennial overachiever for all of this stuff. Just unimpressed. She just doesn't care, and that's why she's so good at everything. That's what we should strive to be, I guess.
But I'll give her this one. Fine. She was like, "Oh, I gotta fly."
So immediately after that, she began saving the $1,000 required for flying lessons, and completely dedicated her life to learning that. And 6 months later, bought her first plane, a bright yellow Keener Airster biplane she nicknamed the Canary.
Okay.
So that's what we're working with. She didn't care about planes for let me do some quick mental math here, 23 years of her life, and then immediately fell in love with him, bought a plane within 6 months.
Then got in a plane. Wow, 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months later, she had her own plane.
And she had to save $1,000 for the flying lessons too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or did she buy the plane before she had the flying lessons?
So she went on that flight with Frank Cox, and then within 6 months, she had saved the $1,000, done the flying lessons, and bought a plane.
Jesus Christ! What did she do for a living? Because like back then, $1,000 is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, that's upwards of, I think, 30 or 40,000 that she saved in 6 months.
I know. I didn't write a whole bunch about it, but she was doing just odd jobs.
As what, a bank robber?
No, I think it was just a whole bunch of random stuff, and then I think her parents also kind of chipped in.
Okay.
Because they were fully on board with the dream.
Okay. That makes more sense.
So she got the plane,
right.
And within the year, she was setting records. So we're just going to go through a couple of her accolades, and then we'll get to the big ones. In 1922, set the world flight altitude record for female pilots. In 1923, she became the 16th ever woman to receive a pilot license from the Federal Aviation Institute.
That's pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah. In 1927, she became the first woman to be on a crew of a transatlantic flight. In 1928, she was the first person to fly solo across North America and back, or first woman to fly solo across North America and back. In 1930, she became an official of the National Aeronautic Association. And then the big one, in 1932, at the age of 34, she became the first woman to make a transatlantic flight solo.
Right.
After a flight that lasted 14 hours, 56 minutes, during which she contended with strong winds, icy conditions, and mechanical problems, Earhart landed in a pasture in Northern Ireland. When a farmhand asked her, let me try again. When a farmhand asked her, "Have you flown far?" Earhart replied, "From America."
And the farmhand did not believe her.
Yeah, that's a dope line, though. From America. Ooh, that's cool.
I flew all the way here from America to bring you freedom and cheeseburgers.
Farmhand was like, "I do not care. I'm in Northern Ireland. I do not care about what you're doing." So after that, she continued to set records for first-time solo flights, and became incredibly famous. She was like the rock star of this time period.
Right.
Everyone knew who she was. She was on stamps. She was on posters. She was always
on milk cartons eventually. Get it? Because he used to put missing people on milk cartons. Ah.
Oh, no. Oh, man.
They're just dropping milk cartons all across the Atlantic. Have you seen me?
Oh, no.
Who's in charge of this campaign? What? Nobody lives in the ocean. Yeah, but maybe the mermaids. You never know.
You never know.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Oh, man. That's a funny sketch. I'm into that. It's a colossal waste of milk, but
I mean, and
I think
time and money, too.
yeah, it's a good visual, though.
All right, well, we've been recording for 14 minutes, and I'm pretty sure, 8 of them are just me bullshitting. So
No, that's good. All right. So in 1937, she began planning the biggest and high-profile flight that she'd ever done. It was a 29,000-mile flight circumnavigating the globe. People have done this. They've circled the globe before, but this is the longest ever. Like, obviously they're landing the plane to get refueled and stuff, but this is the longest ever like trip that's ever been attempted by by an airplane at the time. All right, so so June 1st of 1939, June 1st of 1937. Earhart and her co-pilot Fred Noonan departed from Miami in a custom-built Lockheed Electra 10E and began the journey. After numerous stops in South America, Africa, India, South Asia, they arrived at Lae, New Guinea on June 29th. Okay, so they've done great.
2 years to get there? Is that what I'm...
No, it took them 29 days to get that far.
Oh, that's okay. Because you said you said 30,
that's my bad.
1939 first, and I was thinking that you went back and corrected yourself 1937, and that they landed in July of 1939, and I was like,
oh no,
I get these are really old planes, but it took them 2 years.
Yeah, it becomes less impressive if it takes 2 years to go around the world in a plane.
Yeah, it's far less impressive. Around the world in 80 days or whatever. Oh, that's quite impressive in a hot air balloon. Oh, no, this was in a plane. Well.
Journey around the world in 600 plus days.
No, this was in the International Space Station. Wait, hold on. That shouldn't have taken you 80 days.
Yeah, you just wait, and you go around the world every day.
Right.
Okay, so they've gone 2,200 miles on the journey so far.
Okay.
They've only got 7,000 miles left, and that's all over the Pacific, which is definitely the hardest part of this because there's just less things to land on.
Right.
So they've only got 7,000 miles left. On July 2nd of 1937, they took off from the airfield in New Guinea in the Electra. Their intended destination was Howland Island, which was a very, very small, flat island about 2,500 miles away.
Now, all jokes aside, when you say very, very small, I don't know if you came across this in your research. Are you talking like so small that they like would barely be able to get the plane landed before they fell off into the ocean, or? It
was basically just a runway.
Okay.
Like, that was it. It was like, there's an airfield here, there's refueling here, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, so this was already established.
Yeah. I think it was like a military island.
Okay. I was thinking like it was just an island that they happened to know of, that they were like, well, that island's out there and it's flat. Let's land there. Okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah. The reason I mentioned it was flat is it's very hard to see from a plane, especially if there's clouds, because it just kind of like blends in with the ocean.
Okay.
So they're aiming at a very, very small target, and they're 2,500 miles away.
Okay, gotcha.
So immediately concerning. But they departed with 1,100 gallons of gasoline. It was estimated that only 900 gallons would be needed to get to the location. So they brought extra for contingency and all that shit. But, okay. 3 p.m. that day, Earhart reported that her altitude was 10,000 feet, but that they would reduce altitude due to thick clouds. Around 5 p.m., Earhart reported that her altitude was 7,000 feet, speed of 150 knots, and their last known position was recorded near the... I'm going to try this. It's going to be hard to say. You know Ndamukong Suh, the football player?
No.
Okay, never mind then. Okay.
No idea who that is.
It's very... I think it's his last name Islands. The Ndamukong Islands, I think.
I need you to not judge me for not knowing a football player, because...
It's okay.
Again, I'm an expert in solving unsolved mysteries. Are there any unsolved mysteries surrounding football players? Honestly, I don't know. I should look that up and see if there's one we can do for an episode. But Still.
We'll brush up on the football expertise when we get to the Jimmy Hoffa episode, because he's under the Giants stadium, right? Is that the theory there?
That's one of them, I think.
Okay.
He's probably just out in the middle of a desert somewhere, but
Bottom of the Hudson River.
We'll save that for the Jimmy Hoffa episode.
Sounds good. So that was their last reported position. That's 800 miles into the flight.
Okay.
So they still have like more than half to go, and that's the last place they were confirmed to be. So there's a lot of ground to cover here still, but whether it was miscommunication or errors, they never were able to have two-way contact after that. They got close to Howland Island for sure. There was a ship stationed there that was supposed to be relaying coordinates and talking to them and making sure they were on course still.
Right.
Apparently Amelia's airplane was able to hear them, was able to transmit to them, but they couldn't hear anything from the ship that was at the island.
So the ship could hear them, but they couldn't hear the ship.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is where we get into the existential dread of the story, where the person in the plane is like, "Yo, you guys there? I can't find the island." And then the people on the island are frantically trying to contact her, and they just can't.
And then they get just a tiny signal, and the call is coming from inside the plane. What, Fred? Stop it! I'm trying to land us safely. Would you quit messing around with the radio equipment, dude?
Noonan, quit it. It's not.
Up on Mountain Dew. Sorry.
Yeah, that's why they crashed.
I don't know where that came from. Smack you like a spider monkey. Sorry, go ahead.
Fred Noonan, the spider monkey.
The Mountain Dew drinking spider monkey.
Mm-hmm. There's this series of very sad messages in retrospect from the Electra to the ship. I'm just gonna read one of them.
Is it Major Tom type sad? Ground control to Major Tom. It's
actually the inspiration for that directly. We're gonna make that an assertion.
Okay, right I was now. Hold up, is that real?
No, not at all. I'm just gonna read one of them. We must be on you, but we cannot see you. Gas running low. Been unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet, and that's the ship was able to be oh no, they're 30 miles away, and if the cloud cover wasn't bad, they could definitely see the island, but we can't tell them, and they're just gonna fly on, and that's the situation. So that's it. that's what
go ahead.
Go for it.
Well, I was gonna say this has nothing to do with the podcast. I just farted and it picked up on my Audacity. That's how freaking sensitive this mic is.
Well, we're definitely gonna have to keep that in now.
I farted and it was just a flat line, and then all of a sudden there was a little blip. Sorry.
I didn't hear it on my side, but maybe we can do some post editing and make sure that comes through, because I feel like that's important.
So you said this episode is just all over the place, and I feel like it's mostly my fault. What were you talking about? I heard everything you said, yeah. And then we got into talking about farts, and I forgot.
No, it's all good. So they're just continuously trying to reach out to her. They're trying all this different stuff. They're trying Morse code. Mm-hmm. They're trying all the different radio waves, and nothing's working. They're never able to confirm that she's hearing what they're saying.
Right. Okay.
And they're just getting progressively more and more dire messages from her, we're almost out of gas. I hope we find you guys soon. That kind of shit. Hopefully
in that tone. She's just trying to stay calm for her co-pilot. She's yeah, we're just about out of gas, guys. Surely it's going to be okay, but I hope we find you soon, or, and her co-pilot's what? We're almost out of gas? No, it's fine. We'll be fine.
It's okay, Noonan. Noonan, it's all right, man. It'll be good. We're just, the wind's really picking up. The wind, we're so close, though, Noonan. We're so close.
I'll just go back to sleep. It'll be fine. I'll wake you up when we get there.
Shh. Noonan, shh. Take a little nap. Okay.
Like secretly she's actually shat herself.
Correct. Yes. I mean, this is so terrifying to me.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
being in a plane over the ocean and you don't know where to land and you're running out of gas. Like I get freaked out when I'm driving through a city full of gas stations and I'm like, just like the empty light just came on. I immediately have like a panic response.
Right.
But this is like that to 1,000th degree. Like this is terrifying to me. All right, so eventually the messages stopped, and about an hour after the last recorded message, the Coast Guard and the Navy started an extensive search, like around the Howland Island, but just like it was crazy the amount of ocean they were scraping through.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine because they're over the Pacific, right? Which is the largest ocean on the planet.
Yeah, there's so like, and because their last recorded position was like 700 miles into the trip, there's so much like they could have like gone off like 1/10 of a degree and just completely missed it by like hundreds of miles. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
they could have been anywhere, but the search lasted for about 2 weeks until July 19th of that year, and at $4 million, it was the most expensive air-to-sea search of the time.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
That's, I believe, back then, $1,000 was equal to about 10,000 or 20,000, 30,000, something like that. So, I mean, it was probably tens of millions of dollars worth.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like what would be a comparable person to disappear now, because she was incredibly famous.
Right.
I don't know like what it would be, but
I mean, probably just any celebrity or
Yeah.
a very important person. Like probably not
Sure.
like president of the United States level, but definitely more than like some Instagram model.
yeah.
Not that
Maybe if like,
Not that we shouldn't go look for the Instagram model too. I'm just saying it was probably a little more urgent than, in equivalencies.
yeah, we don't spend $4 million looking for the Instagram model. We spend $4 million looking for Amelia Earhart. So there's a ton of speculation on what happened to them. Most people think it was just like a crash and sink thing out in the middle of the ocean. But the other theories are that they landed on an island and this survived. That they were captured by the Japanese military. There were some like tensions going on. This is between World War I and World War II.
Right.
So there's some tension there. And there's another theory, which is the very happy one, is that they intentionally disappeared and began a new life somewhere in the Pacific. So that's what we're working with.
I don't buy it.
You don't buy it? Well, what do you buy, Chad? What are you selling?
So here's what I'm working with. I think, have you ever played Just Cause 2?
Yes, I have.
Do you remember the island to the north of Panau where like if you tried to fly to it, eventually your plane would just shut down because there was a massive EMP generator there up there?
Yes, I do remember this.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking
Okay.
somewhere in... I'm going to mix two different theories here.
Okay.
Somewhere in the Pacific, there is a Wakanda-esque island.
Whoa.
Are you
okay.
following me? Like cloaked. And I think that on this island, there is a massive EMP generator. The reason that it exists, and it's not a very big island. It's maybe the size of, I don't know, New York City.
Okay. Gotcha.
But there's a massive EMP generator. And the reason the EMP generator exists is like short range. It only goes out to about the edges of the island, so that if somebody were to fly over or fly, like get within range where they could see the island, all of their electronics would immediately die. There would be no record of it.
Okay. Yeah. I can see this. This is sounding very Bermuda Triangle, but like, is this a sister city of like what's going on there, or is this its own thing?
I think it's its own thing.
Okay, sounds good.
So yeah, and like they just happened to go a little too far off course, flew over the island, and the plane like just stopped. Where they probably crashed somewhere out in the ocean because the plane's going to continue to have momentum. But were they rescued? I don't know. But I think what I really think is that I like to call myself an expert, and I'm just flying by the seat of my pants here. I'm an expert. Were they rescued? I have no clue. I don't know what happened. Why are you asking me these questions? Get out of my house. What?
We can't focus too much on, like, I know our areas of expertise are very broad, but we can't just focus on one person from history. I think the fact that we know a lot about these ancient civilizations out in the Pacific, I think that's very important to know, that we're aware of these things that people don't really know about. We don't really trouble ourselves with very specific people. I know we're doing an episode on Amelia Earhart, but it's more of a segue into this hidden civilization that Chad has brought to your attention.
Right. Before you even think the thought that should not be thought, it's not Atlantis. This is not the lost city of Atlantis, listeners.
Oh, yeah, that would be foolish.
We know what happened to the lost city of Atlantis, and we will get to that in a different episode. So don't even go there. We get to the Atlantis episode where we're like, remember the Amelia Earhart episode where we said that wasn't the city of Atlantis? We lied.
We pranked you.
Yeah, so this isn't the lost city of Atlantis. So don't be going to try and tie in other episodes with this one. There's no rhyme or reason to the way we do things here.
So I just have one more question, because I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. What is the name of this civilization? Because this is a new one that we could introduce to the world.
Taika Waititi.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Like the actor.
Wow. Okay. Is he from there?
Are you familiar with Taika Waititi?
Oh, yeah. I love Taika Waititi. Yeah. Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
Favorite movie this year.
I haven't seen that yet. No, he is not from there. The island used to be named Mystery Island. Like, that's just... they had no... And then Tycho went there one day, like, just happened to cross it. And he was just so funny that they were like, we're renaming our entire island. It is now called Taika Waititi. And, that was actually just a couple of months ago that happened. So...
He was on his way to the Oscars from New Zealand and he flew over what was at the time called Mystery Island.
Yes. Landed
there, hung out with Amelia Earhart for a little bit.
Right, because nobody ages on the island of Taika Waititi because, they're super advanced.
Right.
If you can see the face that I'm making every time I say something, I'm just like, where the did that come from?
And then I say, right.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly. God, Chad, you and I are just on the same level here.
Chad, we're just figuring this out. We know exactly what's going on. Okay, yeah, this makes a lot of sense to me. And then he arrived at the Oscars after chilling there for, in island time, he was there for 15, 20 years, but because no one ages and it's kind of stuck in time,
right.
He still made the Oscars. I think that's also important to note that
his plane disappeared from radar for maybe 20 seconds, but I mean he spent a good 15, 20 years on the island. So
yeah, learning the culture, becoming the patron saint, kind of like a god figure,
getting the island named after him. There was a huge ceremony. I got an invitation to it, but I unfortunately was not able to make it.
Yeah, I had a wedding, so I wasn't able to. Wasn't able to make it.
I just didn't have the money for a plane ride, like a personal plane ride out to some island that's not supposed to exist.
Yeah, it's hard to convince a pilot when they know there's an EMP at the end of the plane ride too.
That's true.
But you can find people. Well, I think that's a great theory. I think we've solved the Amelia Earhart thing. And we've also established a new canon for us to work with in future episodes. Where
this. Did you have any what was your theory before I told you the actual the true
the correct one? Yeah, part of me thinks that this whole journey that they're going on was kind of like a World War II prequel. Where they're doing all of this as like recon for World War II because stuff's heating up at the time. So I think they're kind of scouting out the Pacific There's not like a ton of information to back this up, but if they were doing that, it would make sense. Like, it would make sense that information's not public.
Is there any information to back that up? Like, is there any kind of like? Because if there is, then obviously your theory makes way more sense than mine.
She was super friendly with former presidents.
I thought you were going to say the Japanese or something. I don't know. Like,
oh no!
Just in general, the Japanese people loved her.
She hung out with Lyndon B. Johnson a lot. I think don't quote me on that directly. She was hanging out with presidents at the time when she was very famous. So there are some theories that she was like a government agent during this time period, but obviously that hasn't been released.
So what I said was just for fun. The cult's explanation is actually what happened. There was some cover-up going on there and whatever else he said. That's the actual explanation. I was just having fun, guys. Totally not backtracking now to cover up anything. So, that's the answer.
Yeah, we almost made a really big mistake.
Yeah. Say it again. I can't remember what you said.
That Amelia Earhart was a government agent scouting the Pacific before World War II. And
then they erased her from the books, or
then she was either captured by the Japanese military or just like was lost at sea while scouting out different parts of the Pacific.
Okay, so Amelia Earhart was a government agent scouting the Pacific Ocean. Which ocean specifically, though? Scouting the Pacific Ocean for the United States government before World War II. And actually, you know what? I'm going to say she learned some secrets she shouldn't have been learning, and the U.S. government had her taken out.
Whoa. Well, that's maybe all these people on the ship that were supposed to land her, maybe those were government agents, and they're like, all right, we're going to pretend to be radioing for the next 14 hours, but actually not do it.
Right, and then when they were questioned about it, oh, well, yeah, we could hear her, but she couldn't hear us. We don't know why. And there's one guy, like, sniggering in the back, like, well, I know why. We weren't talking to her.
I muted my microphone before we went on... before we started talking.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
Well, I think we've solved this one.
We have.
I think we've figured it out.
We solved it. So, yeah, that's Amelia Earhart. We're going on the record. Amelia Earhart was a government agent scouting the Pacific Ocean for the U.S., and she learned some stuff that she shouldn't have been learning, and so they took her out over the Pacific Ocean, and they've been covering it up ever since. And, we, the experts, have solved this, so don't question it, as per usual. Mm-hmm. And, do you have anything you want to add before we do the outro?
I think we're really digging into, like, some deep stuff here. So, if people are, like, concerned about the information we're digging up, I think they can reach out, and we'll give them warnings, to not listen to specific episodes, because there's this thing that's coming about called brain thought or brain crime, thought crime. Let me third try, thought crime. If you know some of this stuff and the government knows you know it, it's going to be bad for you.
Yeah. So I think what Colt is trying to get at here is, if for some reason there is not an episode next week, don't come looking for us. You'll just wind up you'll get the same fate. So
yeah. We know too much for it to be safe.
And now you do too, but they can't track.
Now you do too.
Everyone who might have listened to it, so they'll come for us first, and then But if there's not an episode next week, definitely don't come looking for us. We're dead. Like we're being held in the lowest levels of Guantanamo Bay. So
it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for the spread of knowledge.
For the truth.
For the truth.
So with that being said, as per the usual, if you want to support the podcast, the best way to do that right now is by word of mouth, and to go on iTunes and rate the show 5 stars, leave a review. To that end, we want to mention again that if you rate and review the show before the 10th episode goes live, you will get a personalized shout out on a future episode. This is just kind of our way saying thank you to those people who are supporting us in the early stages of the podcast. You can also find us on Facebook at Unsolved Mysteries Solved and on Twitter at Solved Podcast. I won't go into my spiel again about why our tag sucks. And like always, if you have a mystery you want us to solve, or if you just want to drop us a line, you can do that with an email to mysteriessolvedpodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. And until next week, we will catch you on the flippity flop. And remember not to question us, or you will be
put down.
Finally got it right. But anyway, thanks again, everybody. Thanks for listening.
All right, bye.